Completely agree. And I think everything in life is rented. I don't think anything is ever owned. I think that your health is rented and you have to pay the rent every day. And your marriage is rented and you have to work on your marriage every day. And your business is rented and everything you have is rented. I think the idea that even owning anything or anything as a finish line is wrong. Right. You don't just start a company and go, okay, I'm rich now. No, you got to work on that company every day. It's rented. You don't just get in shape and go, I'm in shape now, it's done. No, absolutely everything's the same, and a relationship is exactly the same, and I completely agree with you. I think that the breakdown of the nuclear family and the breakdown of marriage in the West is actually one of the ills and one of the big problems with it. I am not married myself, so I'm not being completely, I don't want to come across as hypocritical, but I do think that is actually a vast way to a degree to solve a lot of problems in society. I do think, though, in the current setup of society, I think the reason a lot of men are also rejecting marriage is, one, because there's not many wives to find, but two, I think a lot of men find themselves very unhappy in marriage because the women have no interest at all in satisfying them, like you said, or no interest at all in their needs. And they end up scared of divorcing her because they're going to be bankrupt in a marriage where they don't feel respected. Kids don't listen to them, and they're not the king of their own household. So what would be the attraction in getting married unless you're going to be the king of your own household? And that can be extrapolated and discussed in two different ways. One about feminine submissiveness, but also about masculine accountability and excellence. Because I think if you're truly an excellent man, you can be the king of any household. So It's very interesting. It's kind of interesting how all arguments come back to almost the same base biological things. And you teach women to be good women, you teach men to be good men, and everything kind of works out after that. And if you break those two things, everything built on top of it completely degrades and breaks down. Because even all the other things we discussed how masculinity would have prevented a lot of the COVID crisis. We can talk about how genuine masculinity or a good nuclear family and anti-propagandist dinner table can prevent a lot of this transgender insanity. There's so many things can be fixed with a man being a man and a woman being a woman. Absolutely. And if I had to be pessimistic about why they're doing it, pessimistic and also very realistic, they want to cause absolute chaos and confusion, because during chaos and confusion, you can implement anything.
Of course, slavery.
It's slavery, right? People will give up their freedom for only one thing, and that's safety. So they have to inject chaos and they have to inject confusion, and they want us confused at every level. At every base level, they want you confused. They want you confused about why your kid doesn't listen to you, why your marriage doesn't work, why you're broke, why they want you confused from the ground all the way up. So you're just confused. So when they come along with some sort of solution, no matter what garbage it is, you end up just adopting it because you're sick and you need a medicine. So absolutely, they attack masculinity and femininity because it works so perfectly together. And if they can break that, they can break all of society by extension. And I think they've done a pretty good job of doing exactly that. And it's amazing if you look at these ideas we discuss and how ridiculous they are, and how I feel like it's a psyop to even convince me to waste my time convincing people that a man is not a woman. It's done on purpose because they have the world so confused now that they can come at us with absolute garbage, and it needs a discussion. If we had the basis of masculinity and femininity in the household, how much harder would the transgender argument be to implement? Think about it. Well, she's a woman, I'm a man. No. But now they got people thinking we're all the same, it doesn't matter, gender is not real, all this craziness because of the breakdown of the basics. So this is why perhaps they see you as such a threat, and they see me as such a threat, and they see us as such a threat because we've just stuck to the age-old adages and the age-old ways that people have always been. And I do think that one of the reasons why they dislike me so much is because, yeah, I certainly live a teenage boy's dream. But if you want to inspire the next generation, how else are you going to do it, right? You have to have the fancy car and the big yacht and all these things. And by inspiring these men to stand up and think for themselves and resist the slave mind, it's doing genuine damage to their slave agenda. Genuine damage to their slave agenda. And I think that that's why I especially ended up targeted. Person, I try my very best to, my father had a saying which I use, I allow manipulation to find out where my enemy wants me to go, and then I use my mind to break the trap and punish the perpetrator. And the reason he said that was because if you don't allow them to manipulate you, you don't know exactly where they want you to go. If they try to manipulate you and you absolutely not resist, you might end up taking another path towards the same destination. So you should allow them to manipulate you. Watch the slave programming, watch the propaganda, watch all of it, find out what you want, then what they want you to believe, and then you can use your mind to instantly break the trap. I did it in COVID. And when I first watched COVID, when I watched the Italian hospitals and people falling over in China, at the very, very beginning of it, I sat there and thought, what do they want me to believe? They want me to be scared of this disease. They want me to be afraid. No, I'm not going to be afraid. So if I'm not afraid, what's the answer? Well, the answer is to go to which country? Sweden's open. Nobody talks about the fact that Sweden was open the whole time, never closed ever. I mean, interesting, we're in nightclubs the entire time people were locked in their houses. Nobody talks about this. It's like no one mentions it anymore. But you have to use your mind to break the trap. And I feel like I've tried to allow my mind to be psyoped into this transgender stuff or this abortion stuff. And even I can't even pretend to buy into it. I can't see how you can reach that level of delusion. And that's where I say, maybe it must be Darwinism, because maybe even with all of my mental capacity, I can't even pretend to be stupid enough to want to go and chop my genitalia off to then imitate a woman, poorly imitate a woman for the rest of my human years. That literally sounds like a form of torture. That sounds like one of the worst existences ever. I feel sorry for anyone who's fallen for that, because they're never going to be what they want to be, ever. It's just like the worst possible existence. I just can't think of anything possibly worse. And I don't know, maybe there's a Darwinistic element to all of these things. If we can just control the culture and make sure that no future children are psyoped into the death cult, maybe it should all fall apart, because people who truly are that susceptible. Me and my brother have a joke in the house. There's flies and mosquitoes in the house sometimes. Every time one of us kills a fly, we say, you've improved the gene pool. Because the slow one got killed. The fast one, he doesn't get killed. So the fast one's gonna be here forever.
I want to think about that every time I kill a fly.
Every time you kill a fly, you're helping them get quicker. If we didn't kill flies all these millions of years, they would never be so elusive. I would never allow my child to be aborted, ever. I do think it's heinous and disgusting, but I will be honest with you. When I see people trying that hard to kill their kids, I'm kind of like, I'm not gonna lie. Maybe that's the libertarianism in me. Maybe, I don't know, but I'm just like, there's gotta be a Darwinistic element to some of these things. I don't think they should happen. I would love to stop them all. I believe that all life is precious. I think it's heinous. I don't think that anyone should chop off any of their body parts either. But it does get to a point where it's just like, if you're that desperate to damage your own life and damage yourself, am I the person who's gonna fight for you? I don't know. Inspiring people to free think and to not believe all the slave programming which is told to them, and to not just follow lockstep with the lies that are given to them, I think in and of itself makes you a conservative, and to a degree makes you political. Unfortunately, now that's how the divide exists. If you're teaching people to think for themselves and be strong people of agency and self-respect, then you're gonna be on one side of the political spectrum. And if you're teaching people to be the absolute opposite, you're gonna be on the other side. And by extension, I guess I am political and I am conservative, just because I'm telling men to stand up and to be strong and to think for themselves. And that makes you resist to slave programming. And I like to believe that the conservatives themselves have resisted slave programming the most. But yeah, it's a scary world we're now living in, where things that I'm saying, which were basically completely accepted by the entire population 15 years ago, are enough to make me the most hated man in the world. But isn't that crazy? I think the things I'm saying are things that were widely accepted for a very long period of human time. I think they're the things that are still widely accepted in most of the world today. I think it's the decadence of the West that allow us to pretend these ideas and these realities don't exist. And I don't know how long we're going to last under this false reality. I don't know how long society can possibly function with the insanity that they're trying to purport on the population of the West. The fact that so many calories in the Western world, genuine calories from food and human time, is wasted discussing pronouns and trying to get somebody's pronouns correct in a sentence that they've made up, which change at random. Think of the absolute insanity of that. And how long can a society actually function with that degree of decadence and absolute asinine behavior? I don't know how long it can even function anymore. I think the West is in a lot of trouble. And it's almost like, especially certain talking points, and I find myself guilty of it as well. We talk about certain talking points which are pushed to the front. And I kind of feel like they are a mass distraction. They have to be, because they're so ridiculous. But the problem is, there's a certain percentage of the population that genuinely believe them. I would love to live in a world where they try and push the idea that a man is a woman, or that a man can change to a woman and then compete in women's sports without an advantage. I would love for them to try and push that idea, and for everybody to go, this is stupid, next, no. But because some people believe, we have to now waste our time discussing and debunking the most obvious, hello, water is wet. We have to sit here and talk about the sky being blue for days and weeks and years almost at a time. Talk about the ultimate distraction tool by the Matrix, for them to sit there and go, you know what? Let's come up with some absolute garbage and let's throw it to the front, and the smart people will fight against it, but enough dummies will disagree with it, and that will keep them distracted while we do something that matters. And I even find myself falling victim to it, because it's so necessary, because a certain subsect of the population is so dumb that they believe it. If people were all just a little bit less receptive to the slave programming, everyone would stand up and say, no, you're gonna try harder than that, next. And we could discuss something that actually matters. And this is the point I was gonna say earlier about COVID. So, COVID, I think a lot of people do not understand how petty and vindictive power can genuinely make somebody. And I had an argument with a friend of my brother about 2 or 3 years ago during COVID, when you had to wear a mask when you went in the restaurant, and then you sat down, you took it off, and then you ate, and you put it back on to go to the toilet, you took it off. And I said, I hope you understand there is someone somewhere, some billionaire on a yacht, who is doing this as a compliance exercise, as a joke.
I know.
As a joke. And he goes, why would you do all that just for a joke? Because if you're in charge of the entire world and you have unlimited money, what's going to make you happy? A Ferrari? You've had Ferraris your whole life. Boring. All that you care about is power, compliance. It's all funny to you. It's vindictive. It's petty. Why not? You're in charge. For the same reason, if you're in charge of a big company, you're like, I want you all in at 8:45 tomorrow. Why not? It's a power play. Ego, status, respect, all the things we were talking about earlier. These people are born into massive influence. Money doesn't make them feel powerful. They've never worked for anything in their lives. Now they have a little bit of control over you. They're going to make you do some dumb so they can laugh at you. I'm telling you, it was a joke. And people don't understand that there are people in the world who have power who are literally vindictive enough to just mess with the entire populace for a joke. And I don't think people understand when you look at the Matrix as a whole, and you talk about the media machine and how it's trying to push these ideas on you, and the people behind it. The people behind it do not have any kind of genuine intention. Their intentions are absolutely and utterly selfish. They want to feel good and feel powerful no matter what it takes. And I do think, although this may be elitist, I will state here that at a certain level of finance, it's not the same crime as it would be if I was a traditionally financed individual. I can afford 2 or 3 families, and I can afford to see them all, and I can afford to go to 3 countries in a single day on my jet if I need to. And I'm a very good father to all my children. I love them very much. And you're right. I completely agree with you. The nuclear family is the answer. My solution is not the solution for everyone, but the nuclear family is the answer. I agree with you. But Islam is also an answer. As the women act worse, the men act worse by extension. Yeah. Because if you're going to be moral in an immoral world, you're going to end up wrecked.
Right.
So it's getting harder and harder. So we have to kind of like fix one of the genders first. And they're also being conditioned to leave the man as soon as things get difficult. There's a lot of programming in this I don't think even many people pick up on, but women are conditioned to act a certain way before marriage, but also during marriage, men and women are conditioned differently. If you have a man who's been married for 10 or 15 years, and let's say he doesn't sleep with his woman anymore, and he goes on TV and says, me and my woman have been married for 15 years, we no longer have sex, I'm not satisfied, I should leave. Everyone will say to him, no, you can't leave. You can't leave her just because she won't have sex with you. Are you out of your mind? Are you crazy? Stick by your woman. She has an emotional problem, etc. If you had a woman who said, I've been married for 15 years, I've been with him, I'm not attracted anymore, I don't have sex with him anymore. You deserve freedom, you can go get someone else. Why are you putting up with this? His feelings aren't your responsibility. So it's actually very interesting also, the psyop happens post-marriage. Women are also attacked post-marriage to not try, not stick around, not worry about their husband's needs. Yeah, I want to do my absolute best. I had someone say to me the other day that I'm the richest man in the world, and not because of my finances, but because I actually have people whose lives I save and help. And I get a lot of people out there who genuinely feel a lot better because of me. And I try my very best to tell the truth and live true to my heart. And I live with my brother, and I've got a lovely family, and I feel like I've got everything almost ticked off. And my plans for the future are primarily to continue to tell the truth. I think that we're now winning. I think there's been a pendulum that swung, and people are tired of insanity and they're tired of being lied to. I like the idea of young boys who follow me just doing even one of the tenets I teach. If you want to just work hard in the gym and become a fantastic physical condition, or if you want to get financially secure, just one of the tenets I teach can genuinely improve people's lives. I like the idea of that. And I want to have 10 sons. And I need to make sure that all 10 are Andrew Tate 4, 5, 6, I'm the 3rd, 7, 8, 9, all the way up. And I have to make sure that the next generation are being produced, and they have to be strong enough to deal with a Romanian jail cell and deal with a Matrix attack. So it's going to be a very difficult upbringing, and I'm going to make sure that I'm very dedicated and focused on creating the next generation of super soldiers to resist enslavement. So my plans for the future are pretty simple. I'm going to continue to tell the truth. I'm going to live true to myself, true to God. I really appreciate the audience he's given me, and I know that I have a massive responsibility. It makes me a better person. I'm going to be the best person I know how to be, and I'm going to have 10 Andrew Tates. That's my goal. That's the plan.